The peoples of pre-dynastic Egypt were the successors of the Paleolithic inhabitants of northeastern Africa, who had spread over much of its area. During wet phases, they had left remains in regions as inhospitable as the Great Sand Sea. The final desiccation of the Sahara was not complete until the end of the 3rd millennium BCE. Over thousands of years, people must have migrated from there to the Nile Valley, the environment of which improved as the region dried out. In this process, the decisive change from the nomadic hunter-gatherer way of life of Paleolithic times to settled agriculture has not so far been identified. Sometime after 5000 BCE, the raising of crops was introduced, probably on a horticultural scale, in small local cultures that seem to have penetrated southward through Egypt into the oases and the Sudan. Several of the basic food plants that were grown are native to the Middle East, so the new techniques probably spread from there. No large-scale migration need have been involved, and the cultures were at first largely self-contained. The preserved evidence for them is unrepresentative because it comes from the low desert, where relatively few people lived. As was the case later, most people probably settled in the valley and delta. The earliest known Neolithic cultures in Egypt have been found at Merimda Bani Salama on the southwestern edge of the delta, and farther to the southwest in Al-Fayoum. The site at Merimda Bani Salama, which dates to the 6th-5th millennium BCE, gives evidence of settlement and shows that cereals were grown. In Al-Fayoum, where evidence dates to the 5th millennium BCE, the settlements were near the shore of Lake Karun, and the settlers engaged in fishing. Merimda is a very large site that was occupied for many centuries. The inhabitants lived in lightly built huts. They may have buried their dead within their houses, but areas where burials have been found may not have been occupied by dwellings at the same time. Pottery was used in both cultures. In addition to these Egyptian Neolithic cultures, others have been identified in the Western Desert, in the Second Cataract area, and north of Khartoum. Some of these are as early as the Egyptian ones, while others overlapped with the succeeding Egyptian pre-dynastic cultures. In Upper Egypt between Asyut and Luxor, Al-Luxor, have been found the Tazian culture, named for Dire Tasa, and the Badarian culture, named for Al-Badari. These date from the late 5th millennium BCE. Most of the evidence for them comes from cemeteries, where the burials included fine black-topped red pottery, ornaments, some copper objects, and glazed steatite beads. The most characteristic pre-dynastic luxury objects, slate palettes for grinding cosmetics, occur for the first time in this period. The burials show little differentiation of wealth and status and seem to belong to a peasant culture without central political organization. Probably contemporary with both pre-dynastic and dynastic times are thousands of rock drawings of a wide range of motifs, including boats, found throughout the eastern desert, in Lower Nubia, and as far west as Mount Uwainat, which stands near modern Egypt's borders with Libya and Sudan in the southwest. The drawings show that nomads were common throughout the desert, probably to the late 3rd millennium BCE, but they cannot be dated precisely. They may all have been produced by nomads, or inhabitants of the Nile Valley may often have penetrated the desert and made drawings.